to the MCA. I'm Jada and I'll be your host today. In this episode, TV for Your Body, we'll look at some art that depicts bodies and we'll think about how we see and feel about our own bodies. The art you'll see in this video is contemporary art. Saying art is contemporary just means that it was made recently, in our time. Old historical art is special and important because through it we can learn about the past. But the art of our time is just as important because it can help us see the present in new ways. One of the early patrons of this museum, Gerald S. Eliot, said of contemporary art, "What attracts me is a certain awesomeness and presence which relates to the spirit of our time, to the human condition, the ups, the downs, the disruption, the chaos, the ambivalence." We'll be approaching art that way, not by trying to dig into its history or the biography of the artists. Instead, we'll look for ways the art can inspire us to engage with ourselves, one another, and the world we share. Okay, we've got to talk about it. People can be weird about bodies, especially naked ones, and especially certain body parts. Bodies are not bad, inappropriate, or shameful. All bodies are beautiful and powerful and a part of our identity. As we talk about artworks today, we're going to see some bodies without clothes. We'll look at art made by artists who are thinking about how our bodies figure into our identities. We're not going to censor these bodies, but we'll go ahead and avoid anything too graphic or explicit. In some places, obviously, there are some rules about who's old enough to look at body parts ordinarily covered by clothes. Not museums, though. In art, nudity is totally normal. Throughout history, artists have used nudity to try and convey the beauty of the human body. In this animation by Lily Carré, a body transforms into different shapes and forms. You might recognize some of the poses. They're from famous artworks. But not all nudity is the same, and not all nudity is good. It can get complicated when sex or power come into the picture, or when only certain kinds of bodies are the naked ones, or if there isn't consent. The kinds of bodies we see in artworks, in commercials, in movies, in social media, and advertising, they all influence and inform what people consider beautiful. It's great when things out in the world help you feel beautiful. It's bad when people only consider one type of body beautiful. Have you ever seen something that has changed the way you felt about your body? Maybe there was a movie where someone looked like you, or an art exhibit where nobody did. Talk with a friend or family member about it. Talk about a time when you saw something that made you feel good about your body, and a time when you saw something that didn't feel so great. Remember to show each other love and support in that conversation. Talking about vulnerable stuff can be hard. This is a whole series of works by Emile Ferris related to her graphic novel called My Favorite Thing is Monsters. The main character, Karen Reyes, is a queer girl in 1960s Chicago who loves monsters, horror stories, and all things gross or scary. She's also an artist, and the graphic novel is written as if she were telling her own story by drawing in her notebook. Karen draws herself as a version of the Wolfman, a character from the 1941 horror film, while she draws most other people as regular humans. For Karen, monsters like her aren't bad. They're feared because they're different. In classic horror stories like Frankenstein, for example, there's a subtext that it's fear that makes the monster, not the monster that makes the fear. Karen has dreams about being attacked by a mob of everyday people. For her, the word mob is an acronym, MOB, mean, ordinary, boring. Karen is proud to be a wolf girl. Whatever quote-unquote ordinary looks like, she's different, and it's good to be what she is instead. A bit weird-looking and fangy as she puts it, even if it means she doesn't fit in.
Hi, we're TCA members. I'm Edana.
I'm Daniela, and we're artists, and we're gonna look at some art. We did two different ways.
Never done camera.
Yeah. We're gonna make some art and look at some art.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Hi, we're TCA members. I'm Edana.
I'm Daniela, and we're artists, and we're gonna make some art and look at some art. I love this art style. It's so cute.
It's really simple, but you get a lot of emotion out of it.
Oh yeah, it's like frown, but like smiling. Kind of reminds me of like Animal Crossing or just like watching a little dude doing their little chores.
It just looks like a little stick with a head.
Yeah, like
It's
it
so
flows so
small,
nicely.
yeah.
You just like watch its big head go to each thing.
These are really realistic though, bodies. These are like pretty much proportional.
Yeah, I like how like every time they show her face, it's like grossed out or
Yeah.
like annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the like you can really see like the expressions like the lines of someone like being grossed out or not or annoyed. Like the comics can just like give emotion to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if a character is an object or something, they could put eyes on it, and now we relate to them.
Even like the nose. There's like
I mean, every time they have a nose, it's like something else.
mm-hmm.
It like pops. I think that's really cool.
Maybe like exploding with like anger or something.
Yeah, like
Or like
they
their
show-
emotions.
I guess like in comics, like you see that a lot. Like they like if they feel something, they literally show it.
Mm-hmm.
Like their nose exploding black gunk. I really don't like drawing with pencil and then putting like pen over.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it kind of distorts it for me, like the drawing. Sometimes if I'm drawing like someone that I've never drawn before, sometimes I don't want to offend them or something.
I feel the same way. Like sometimes if I draw someone and I don't know them, I feel like I have to almost censor myself in a way because I don't want them to be weirded out.
Yeah, I don't want them to be like,
Or like, what is this?
like people in middle school like, oh, can you draw me?
I took a couple art classes at school, but I didn't really like enjoy them. I feel like I didn't get to express myself the way I wanted to.
I heard there's this art teacher that even my art teachers hated. Like they would talk about her, which maybe wasn't professional, but
Yeah.
they like, cause she used to like, cause my art teachers were very like, do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But that art teacher was like, you have to draw realistic noses for a month or something. Like, let's watch YouTube videos on how to draw realistic noses.
I feel like when I was younger, I really hated drawing noses, but now they're like one of my favorite things to draw. Just because I never like made myself do it, so I never got to the point where I was comfortable just doing it all the time.
I didn't draw noses for like 2 years. Like, part of my like characters or whatever, I didn't draw noses.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started drawing noses, even though they're just triangles.
Mm-hmm.
And now my noses are just like dots sometimes.
I feel like I like drawing the nose most, but I also really like the hands, but like the fingernails a lot too. I feel like my least favorite, I hate drawing feet. I never draw feet because it just grosses me out. And I don't want to have to look at a foot reference that long.
Sometimes the eyes, like it's not my least favorite, but it's like sometimes the hardest. Not because of like the scale of it, but like deciding it. And sometimes I like mess up, and so I just like pretend they're wearing sunglasses or something. Like I just block them out.
That sort of like upbringing of being only told to draw traditional and really like fancy work, basically that was only meant to be seen by like rich people, and it wasn't meant to express how I actually wanted to draw, still kind of ingrained in me, because sometimes I draw and I'm like, this isn't good because it doesn't look exactly like the reference.
I only thought like an artist's job was in like a old-timey like paintings in a museum or something.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there's like actual other jobs. And like some people, because I still drew like cartoons and stuff, and they'd be like, oh, you could be like make children's books. when you're older. And I remember I used to be really offended by that when I was younger. But now, like, I do want to make a children's book one day, or like a comic, something like that.
I don't want to have to be forcing myself to draw like how old people want me to draw.
Yeah. I really like crayon because like I do use like expensive art supplies sometimes, but crayon just like kind of takes the pressure off of it. Even if like I break it from
It doesn't feel like you're wasting it.
Yeah, because like I have real pastels, but I haven't used them once because they kind of run out easily for me. So I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna like waste them on like bad art or something. I made you purple.
I just did you in pencil.
I know.
It might go without saying, but the experience of living in a body is not the same for everyone. Regardless of how we feel about ourselves, the color and shape of our bodies unfairly affects how we're seen and treated by others. There's judgment and stereotypes and biases. Bianca Xunis is an artist whose comics tell personal, political, and sometimes punk rock stories. She's going to read her comic, Angry Black Girl, now.
Hello, everyone. I am Bianca Xunis, and I am a cartoonist. I make comics about a little bit of everything, but mostly slice of life. Think Scott Pilgrim meets Peanuts, a little bit of Gossip Girl, a little bit of everything. Growing up, I was influenced by Seinfeld, of all things, but I was curious of what that world would look like, starring a non-binary femme who's also Black, you know? And so I draw comics about those things. I draw comics about the ups and downs of life because I think life is so beautiful and interesting. Let's record it. So I want to read you all today a comic that I drew called Angry Black Girl. That's about the experience of being a Black person in America who's often policed in how we're allowed to feel. So come on and join me. Let me pull that up. Hopefully I will get it right. Let's see here. Yes. Okay. So growing up, I learned to never show my rage. The idea of my own anger hung heavy on me like a shackle of restraint. At home, I was punished if I took a tone with my mother. I would later be diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety, but in my youth, they were just perceived as teenage angst. In school, I got detention for having an attitude after misunderstanding a lecture. As I got older and spoke up for myself in school and job, I got suspended and even fired. I was haunted by the concept of having an attitude for many years. I would constantly swallow my justified rage to allow others to feel more comfortable around me. Sometimes I even believed their accusations because I heard them so often. I learned the same thing was happening to many Black women and non-binary people. She has an attitude, has been used as a dog whistle in silencing Black women's right to feel frustrated. It can instantly create racist stereotypes of the angry Black woman. She has an attitude. Black women's emotions are weaponized against us. We are compared to pit bulls, while our white counterparts are seen as brave in the same situations. I was raised to believe that showing my anger would be perceived as a weakness, but instead of rising above it, I would suppress it until it would come exploding out. Ultimately, I found positive outlets from releasing my anger that weren't self-destructive, such as kickboxing and therapy. Getting lost in a punk mosh pit is cathartic too. I like the punk rock, the rock and roll, getting loose. Above all else, I've learned to allow myself to be frustrated in the moment. I have prioritized my self-agency in a society that would rather see me as docile. Standing in my truth has made me a lot less angry. So I have a question for everyone today, tonight, tomorrow, this evening, this afternoon. Hello. What do you do to make yourself feel a lot less angry in your body? How do you release that? Do you journal? Do you draw comics? Do you make memes? Do you make TikToks? Do you learn the latest dance craze? Do you make a smoothie? Do you have a glass of water and a Batman glass from the 80s? What do you do to make yourself feel a lot less angry in your rage that is justified? Because we're human. We have so many emotions, both good, bad, and everything in between. Not everything feels as good, but we all have to release it. And what do you do to release that energy positively in a way that doesn't cause harm to others or to yourself? Anyway, that's my question for tonight. Thank you for having me. Again, I'm Bianca Xunis. Peace.
This is a painting by Christina Quarles called Don't They Know It's the End of the World? It's two distorted bodies wrapped up in an odd room with these ornate windows. Take a close look at how Christina paints each body part differently. The arms and legs are just light pale gestures, like she made them with one swoop of the brush. The feet are gnarled with thick paint and twisted colors. The faces are not really there. Looking at the whole picture, how do you think these people feel in this room? Christina painted it in early 2020. We were all just coming to terms with being stuck in our homes. Of course, there were a lot of mixed up emotions. Do different parts of these bodies suggest different feelings to you? When you're feeling all sorts of things, it can be helpful to slow down and try to locate where you're feeling that way. It sounds a bit weird, but we each carry happiness, trauma, stress, and fear differently in different places in our body. Take a few deep breaths with me. Slow down and pay attention to how your body communicates with you. First, try to remember confidence. Where in your body do you feel confidence? Maybe it's in your shoulders or in your forehead. Now think about when you feel nervous. Where does nervousness sit in your body? Last, recall a time you felt truly joyful. Where do you feel that joyful energy most? If you ever have trouble managing your feelings, slow down and then find them in your body. Try caring for them there. Now, a member of the MCA's Teen Creative Agency, Elvis Hernandez, got a chance to talk with Christina Quarles about the body she paints. Let's take a look.
Hello, I'm Elvis Hernandez from the Teen Creative Agency here at the MCA, and I'm here talking to Christina Quarles. Hello, Christina Quarles.
Hi, nice to meet you.
I recently had the experience of witnessing your art for the first time, and immediately, like, the first thing that caught my eye was like this idea of expressing emotion through the form of like a body.
Yeah.
And approaching it that way, opposed to portraying what it looks like to feel something.
As an artist, like to get to what you were saying about showing the feeling, like what it is to feel the feeling rather than what it is to see the feeling, is something that it took me a long time as an artist to figure that out. I think for a while I was like, okay, I have to show this by showing exactly what it looks like. But sometimes what something looks like is not anything like what it feels like. And so for me, that was a big discovery with my work, was how to use the body, but to show what it is to be within your body rather than what it is to look at a body. And I think that experience is sometimes really different. So my experience of being within my own body is always really different from what it is to look at other people.
Yeah, and going back to that idea of like presenting your most perfect self, I know that in like more classical forms of painting, there's this idea of like painting the form perfectly. And I was wondering if there was like any instance in which you felt a feeling of empowerment by like maybe not disobeying that
Yeah.
perfect form.
Yeah.
Like what that inspiration comes from for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot that there's this, we make a lot of assumptions based on this sort of ideal body in a way. And so for my work, like one of the things I always try to challenge people to do is think about all the different factors that would contribute to a body being the way it is. And because I think we assume things about like somebody's gender based on this sort of ideal, like 22-year-old, like really fit body, you know? But I'm like, when you add age to it, if somebody's really young or really old, you add body weight to it. If somebody's really, really fat or really thin, like all those things can complicate the way that also gender could be read in the work. And so in my work, I guess it's really just more about sort of taking this kind of quick read of something and then trying to slow it down or complicate it. And so it's about having other things in the painting maybe that are more sort of beautiful or catchy. So like bright colors and flowers and fun textures and things that'll sort of keep you engaged, but then have these bodies that are really complicated and messy, and sometimes there's like weird fat rolls, but it's painted in a really beautiful way, and other times it's like maybe more of like an ideal body but painted in kind of like an ugly crusty way.
I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite body part? Whether it's like physically on yourself or when it comes to painting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I like all the body parts. Some of them are harder to draw, so I'm like, there's a few things where I'm like, I should really learn how to draw that. Like, I rarely have like ears in my paintings, just because it's like there's a lot going on in an ear that's like can't be bothered with it. But I tend to pay a lot of attention in my paintings to hands and to feet, and I find that in my paintings that's where like a lot of the expression is. And I think it's because I think about how when we're in our own body, we really can see our hands and feet all the time. Like when I look at you, I'm only looking at your face. Like that's your most important feature. And for most people, when I look at them, if I'm like being polite, I'm looking at their face. And it's the one part of my body that I don't know. Like I only know what my face looked like the last time I used the bathroom, which was like a while ago. So I don't really know what my face looks like. And even when I do look at it, it's in a mirror. So it's flat and it's reversed. And so I think that we're at this sort of strange disadvantage to knowing ourselves because I would prioritize everybody else's face and not know it in myself. It's like the one thing I look at is the one thing I don't look at for myself. But for me, it's like, so my expression, my sense of who I am comes from this sense of like my limbs and then primarily like my hands and my feet kind of moving around. So yeah. And I think even as like a little kid, I was like, if I want to learn how to draw, I have to learn how to draw hands because those are the hard ones. So I really practiced it a lot as a little kid. So I think that also it's this place where I feel really comfortable sort of riffing off of what a hand looks like.
Yeah, I agree because I feel like when I ask myself that question, immediately my mind just goes to like more of like in terms of vanity. Maybe I might think, oh, I like my nose. Or I like my ears. But just thinking about like expression, I would agree with you. I think I would prefer my hands over anything else. I don't really pay attention to my nose, but I think it's just that like condition that sometimes we have.
Yeah. It's like you think you'd be like, oh yeah, like my eyes are like, the things that you would describe in other people. Because, but then with yourself, it's like, what part of myself do I think of?
Right. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you so much, Christina Quarles, for having this talk with me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching TV for Your Body at the Museum of Contemporary Art, Chicago. I hope you found some inspiration and were able to connect to these works of art in new ways. I want to thank the Teen Creative Agency members who participated in the video, Daniela, Idana, and Elvis. Thanks also to Bianca for reading her comic, and to Christina for talking with Elvis. The museum is always free for people 18 and under, students, and teachers. For more activities and experiences, or for more information about the MCA's learning programs, just visit mcachicago.org/learn.